It sounds like we have Alice Gaynor live for us down there at the memorial site. I know that she's there covering today's visit by the King and Queen. Alice, what can you tell us? What have you seen?
Well, there are crowds gathered across the street. Of course, they have metal barricades, those bike barricades set up, so people are along the perimeter of West Street, which they are opening from time to time to allow some traffic to pass through. I'm going to step aside so you can see there are some cars that are moving because obviously traffic is of a concern to people traveling. We've been speaking with people who are gathered to watch. You know, I was speaking with a couple of young women who studied abroad, and so they never got the chance when they were over in London to see the royal family in person. So this was actually their first time to come over and to maybe get a glimpse. But from across the street where we are by Brookfield Place, that's where we were earlier, it was very hard to see. Obviously, there's a lot of security. They have tents set up. So we saw some vehicles, the motorcade, when it was arriving, bringing some dignitaries. But we, from across the street, did not see anybody actually gathered at the reflecting ponds. And I do want to point out, we're obviously talking about the King and the Queen visiting the memorial here for the first time. And I noticed on the feed they were speaking with a man, one of the first responders that day, Mark Desire. I have to talk about, because it's so important, the people who they are meeting with here at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. These are family members of victims. These are the first responders. And so I saw them speaking with Mark Desire, who's with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. We interviewed him last year for our 9/11 anniversary special. And he was there that day helping with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. They were preserving evidence. They were doing identifications. He was actually injured when one of the towers fell, and his watch stopped at the exact moment one of those towers fell, and he still has it. It's in a case at the at his office at the medical examiner's office. And though he was injured, he continued on with his work, helping to identify remains, which to this day they are still doing. 9/11 victims are still being identified, and there's a big call out there from them to have families come back and give new DNA as technologies evolve, because if more people came and gave DNA and updated DNA, they say they would be able to identify even more remains of people who were tragically killed that day. So as we know, the King and Queen are here. People want to catch a glimpse, but it is so important to remind people that they are here for this moment of silence, this moment of reflection, to pay their respects and to speak with these families. Also, a lot of the charities and organizations like Tuesday's Children, they do such wonderful work, and so they are here speaking with them. And again, there are a lot of people lined up along West Street, but it's really hard to catch a glimpse. I know we are relying on those pool photos, people who are allowed to be traveling with them as this ceremony is happening. There are a lot of elected officials who are here, the mayor of New York City, as well as the governors of New York, New Jersey. We saw former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. He was there as well. Right now, security is pretty tight, but people are allowed to walk, use their bikes in the area, and they are allowing some traffic to go through at various times. Christine and Jessica, that is the latest here along West Street. We are actually on Albany Street here, so the memorial's just in the distance behind us.
Okay, Alice, thank you. And I'm so glad that you brought up the continuing effort to identify all of the remaining victims that have not been identified yet, with all of the DNA analysis and the continued work that the medical examiner's office is doing. Thank you, Alice Gaynor, for that live report. We'll be seeing you again later this afternoon at 5 o'clock.